The Week in Bible Prophecy, a Prophecy Watchers podcast.
Well, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Here we are. I'm with two very special guests, Chuck Konzelman and Cary Solomon. And they are the producers, directors of the new movie Nefarious. But before we go there, which again, I want to get to the details of that, kind of help our audience understand some of the other movies, which I'm sure they'll recognize that you guys have been part of.
Sure. We started off in the kind of the mainstream industry, and then about 15 years ago, we got a call from the Lord. We're guys from Jersey, New York, so it wasn't subtle. The Lord kind of hit us over the head with a mallet. We're like, okay, Lord. The first film we did in that arena was a little film called What If? That was the first film first successful film for Dallas Jenkins, who went on to do The Chosen.
It was a really cool little romantic comedy.
It was a cute little thing. And then we did God's Not Dead, which performed beyond everyone's expectations.
God 2, we did.
Do You Believe?
Do You Believe? Finding Normal.
Yeah.
Book of Daniel.
Yep.
And those were for Pure Flix at the time. We provided their content.
Okay.
And then the Lord called us out to go. He said, I'm going to raise you up. I want you to separate, and I want you to come over here and do. And we did the first movie we did was Unplanned, which was the pro-life movie, which rattled the left.
We had all sorts of resistance against that. We had Google wouldn't accept our ads. They invented a reason the marketing people had never heard before. Twitter, on the night of our theatrical open, which is critical, they shut us down completely.
We had all kinds of interference. They wouldn't take our advertising money. They tried to kill the movie.
We couldn't buy advertising. We couldn't buy it on cable. We couldn't buy it on HGTV, Discovery, Disney. I mean, any of their affiliated companies.
And there were 100 other things that they did. But the Lord being sovereign, he's the king of the universe, right? Out of nowhere, he creates a way for us to take the movie into the theaters. He literally gives us a distribution company. He creates it and gives it to us, and we were able to get it on, 16, 1,800 screens.
1,800 screens.
So now we
that's
still
a big deal.
That's a wide release.
You cannot do that.
Yeah.
And now we have that company, and so now we take other Christian content or controversial conservative content, and so what they cancel, we take and show.
Yeah. So it seems that the Lord is in all this is making the way, providing the way for what you began to experience now with this movie Nefarious. So let's talk about that, where you're being equipped, and give the background of how this kind of came about, and whether you wanted to do the film or not, and stuff like that. I mean, again, spiritual battleground. That's the amazing thing that I want our listeners to know. We all believe it. Ephesians 6:12, right? And we wrestle. There's a wrestling match. Ephesians 5:11. We're to expose evil. We all say this. We all believe it. But we sometimes don't really believe it.
Exactly. I think that's the problem that what we saw in the movie solves that problem. Because if you're in conversation with the average person, they'll go, yeah, of course I believe that. But they don't really believe it because it's not happened to them, or they haven't had a demonic interference or oppression, or something hasn't flown across the room. And when they see it, and it starts to affect them, then they get very, very serious about it because they realize, oh boy. And so the movie reveals that. I mean, it's a powerful thing because, as believers, we're told these things are real. But, you just live your life, right? That's what everybody does. But then it happens, and this movie puts a light on it. And so people then see the truth. And once you see the truth, you can't not know the truth. Yeah. So they have to kind of rearrange their life in a certain way where I got to stop this. I got to stop playing with tarot cards or going to yoga or Reiki or reading horoscopes. I mean, the occult is so prevalent in our society now.
Ouija boards are absolutely the gateway drug for possession. And it's over 80% of the possession cases that exorcists are dealing with and deliverance ministries are dealing with start with a Ouija board. I mean, for the people that are even playing with that, if you have it in your house, I would challenge you, if you own one. This question was asked by an exorcist at a lecture I saw 40 years ago, and I never forgot. He said, "Where's the word Ouija come from?" And no one in the audience knew. You know where it comes from? Oui, French for yes, ja, German for yes. And he said, what you're doing is, this was actually the technical consultant on the original Exorcist film. He said, you're saying yes, yes to a voluntary demonic possession, and you're hoping it's temporary, and the demon is hoping otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really is about permission. And so let's, okay, I told you guys this before, I'm an extreme fan of the Screwtape Letters, written a study guide on it for years. And when I first watched the Nefarious movie, I said to myself, there's no way that this script is unaware of the Screwtape Letters. And so coming to find out, kind of give us the background then of how, in a general way or a specific way, how has C.S. Lewis contributed to this whole
C.S. Lewis is baked into the cake. I mean, if we go even outside the story itself, I mean, part of our operating system, to borrow from Lewis, is we don't need more Christian movies. We need more movies made by Christians, and that's really what we're looking to do. I think, like all filmmakers on our side, we had always wondered about, Screwtape Letters. It would be so great. Aside from the rights acquisition issue, which would be tough, how would you actually present it on film? I mean, it's one party writing letters, and you don't even see the person reading it or
monologue, yeah.
It's crazy. And Steve Deace on the other side, Steve Deace, political commentator, unique in that he approaches politics from a theological viewpoint. That's his whole mission. He was in a shower, I believe, and he got struck with, he was thinking about Screwtape Letters, and he got struck with words along the lines of, to the effect of, the demon, as though he was speaking to someone, I'd like to thank all of the useful idiots who made this possible. And he was thinking about the decline and fall potentially of Western civilization.
Well, Screwtape Proposes a Toast is this kind of like the it's
yes.
Like it really is that. He comes up and he's thanking his cohorts, but he's saying, look at what we've done in the culture. So I like Screwtape Proposes a Toast kind of as an addendum to the Screwtape Letters, because it does that exact thing, kind of a summary, look at what we've done. So that makes perfect sense.
Yes, and Screwtape Proposes a Toast too kind of celebrates the ignorance of humanity more so than the rest of the piece. So yeah, that mindset is baked into the cake. But obviously, Screwtape Letters was for a particular place in time. There's quite a bit of humor, and it's lighthearted, and it's concerned with the day-to-day banality of how we do things without thinking, and how we hurt those around us in our lives, and the rest of it. We needed something a little more
mature,
high octane.
Yeah, intense. Yeah,
high octane for a motion picture. So
we always wanted to do it. I mean, we for years spoke about it, but then all the pieces fell into place, and we had to create the story. So, okay, if you're going to do something, do it right. And, the Lord dropped the Spirit on us. And there were profound things that happened, scenes that came out of nowhere, which were divine. We never thought of it, but we figured that, okay, two guys in a room, and one's a demon, one isn't, and one is a non-believer. And so this motif, all the contemporary societal things that we address, it was all God. The whole thing is the Lord. And I think it was a cry out to people. When we did Unplanned, I will tell you this, we've noticed that we had the rights for Unplanned 4 or 5 years before we actually shot it. And the day we got the rights, which is impossible because it was a best-selling book. You don't get a best-selling book.
It sold 500,000 copies in hardcover.
So we got the rights for that, which is impossible. And that was miraculous. If we had more time, we'd tell you how we got that. But we're about to go to work on that, and the Lord says, not yet. Okay, and so I hear in my head, not yet. And I'm like, I said to him, I think the Lord doesn't want us to do it. We were literally ready to go.
We never had so much source material for any project. We had 200 pages of single-spaced typewritten notes. It was just a question of what do we show and what do we withhold.
And so the Lord says, not yet. We mope around for a week feeling sorry for ourselves. And then on the following Saturday, the Lord says, not yet doesn't mean no. It means not yet.
Yeah. It's not a parenting tool.
All of a sudden we got excited, like, wow, we're going to be able to do it. Okay, this is cool. And we got busy and we did God's Not Dead and some other stuff that he wanted us to do. 5 years go by, give or take, whatever the number is. We're sitting in a room, I kid you not, just like we are now, across from each other. We're both working. We look up at each other, and we both said at the same moment, now. And we were not talking about it, but we knew he said now. And then we watched literally as it marched through completion to coming out at the exact perfect time. And then we went on tour, and while we're on tour, I'm saying in front of the crowd, you're going to see the end of Roe v. Wade. It's going to get flipped. Wow. I come off the stage.
He said within 2 years, and he was saying this routinely.
Within 2 years. And he said to me, would you come over here for a second? And he says, Ixnay on
I'm not sure you should be saying, now this is the dividing line between us. He's prophetic and I'm not. So occasionally I got to take the back seat, but I said, I just don't see any rational basis for that.
Why are you saying this?
I'm not sure you should be saying that.
And I said to him, I don't know why I'm saying it. It's just coming out of me.
I'm so happy to be wrong. I mean,
exactly
really,
right.
I
But
couldn't be
18
happier.
months later,
Yeah.
this movie flipped Roe v. Wade. We got it to the Supreme Court justices. I mean, there's a long story about
Among
it.
other people, we sent a personalized letter with a copy of the DVD to every active and retired Supreme Court justice, and the clerk for every active and retired Supreme Court
Said,
justice.
would you just watch this?
Yeah.
That's what we basically.
Oh, we sent it all over the world. I mean, we sent it to Antarctica. You think we're kidding? Yeah. There are military bases in Antarctica with like 3 people.
Well,
so they're bored, obviously. So we knew we'd see them.
Exactly.
The only problem is they were all men, but that doesn't matter. We still wanted to send it.
All 3 yes, there were 3 bases in Antarctica, and all 3 of them got a copy.
But so we knew the timing. So then when Nefarious, we were told to do Nefarious, I said, okay. And we went through the same thing, the same issue time-wise, and he brought it out. Well, what does that say? Because I'm telling you, he uses us as his tool. Yeah. He uses everybody as his tool. I mean, the bottom line, we are his hands, we are his eyes, we are his mouth, right? And the bottom line, so the movie comes out at the perfect time.
I was struck very strongly during. I know there's millions of people out there that are hoping and are praying for revival. And during the filming of Unplanned, I remember getting struck very strongly with, we can have revival and the blessing of the Lord, or we can have abortion, but we cannot have both.
Yeah, no, you cannot.
So it's just, so hopefully, I mean, obviously we have a divided country with respect to this thing, but hopefully the Lord takes the overthrow of that evil, that wickedness as a sign, and enough of a sign that we will not lose his blessing.
By the way, the devil is not idle on these movies. Like in Nefarious, we were under a siege every day, 24 hours. I mean, the stuff we went through was crazy.
Night and day. During the physical production of Unplanned, marketing was a problem, but during the physical production of Unplanned, we had a perfect hedge of protection around us. It was amazing. We were in the we were here in Oklahoma. We went to Now, we did reasonable things. We shot under a pseudonym. It was called Redeemed. We had security on set. We shot in Stillwater, so not exactly, a town of 30,000 people when college is not in session, right? But we tried to keep a low profile, but we were in a perfect...
The eye of the storm.
Perfect, we were in the eye of the storm. Nefarious, whole different, we were in the twister for all the way through Nefarious.
So I want to get to some of that, because first though, give us again, people haven't seen, maybe some people haven't seen it. Give us the plot line as best as you can, and why, again, this is such a tremendous opportunity to present biblical truth here.
Sure. So the setup for the film is that there's a condemned serial killer played by Sean Patrick Flannery. He's sitting in Oklahoma State Reformatory here in Granite, Oklahoma.
Let me just...
Sure.
He deserves an award if he
deserves
hasn't got one. His acting was phenomenal. So, sorry.
Stellar.
By the way, we put him in for an Academy Award, and they won't even look at the paperwork. And I can guarantee you, some ding dong is going to get the Academy Award. Somebody who no one knows, and because they fit a certain category or whatever. And here, this guy's performance is earth-shattering.
It's amazing.
To me,
you've never seen a performance.
It's
like
absolutely
this.
tremendous. I remember looking, going, this guy is amazing.
It's unbelievable.
So what's he amazing? Give us the plot line. Convicted.
Sure. So he's a convicted serial killer. It's the day scheduled for his execution, but his previous prison psychiatrist has just committed suicide, calling all of his recent findings into question. Well, the state cannot execute you if you're not sane. They want to execute someone who's insane. So a court orders an 11th hour examination of sanity by a psychiatrist. Well, the psychiatrist arrives at the prison.
A new one, right?
A new one, yep. A live one. And the warden warns him. He says, look, this guy knows what's coming. He's going to get inside your head if you let him. By the time you're done, you'll think you're the killer, not him. Just don't let him do it.
He's going to try and convince you he's crazy, because then we can't fry him.
So the shrink says basically, look, I get lied to for a living. I'll figure this out.
Arrogance, cockiness.
Right.
Yep, he's a
He's
social,
intellectual, he's genius, he's
social
smart,
progressive,
well-dressed.
and an atheist.
That's important. That,
Right.
that the way he's presented is he's what you would say is the epitome of professional, again, progressive, successful
Atheism.
and atheism.
He is the man of the world.
He's the man
He's
of the
the
world.
man of the
yeah.
We
world.
designed him that way.
And he walks in and he sits down across from the serial killer, and in short order, the killer tells him, look, you've got this all wrong. You think I'm trying to avoid execution. I want to be executed. I am a demon in full possession of this human being, and we're done with him now. It's time for him to go to hell. And then what happens is two guys across a table about this size of where we are, a 3.5-foot table. One of them is chained to the table, and a gripping conversation for the next 90 minutes.
We preach the gospel for the next 90 minutes,
Yes,
but people
you did.
don't realize that we're preaching. This is the most Christian movie we've ever done, but one of the problems which we did...
I just want to interrupt for one thing, too. Then the demon ups the stakes, and he says, by the way, I know you don't believe me. I know you don't believe a word I'm saying, but I promise you before our time together is over, you will have committed 3 murders. And the psychiatrist dismisses that as utter nonsense.
like joke. What a
Yeah, how
joke.
can that happen, right?
Yep.
And one of the problems that we did is the trailer and the poster were too extreme. We wanted to bring in the 15 to 29-year-old audience because these kids are so obsessed today with the horror movies.
Yeah, evangelism.
And we wanted to clean them, to show them the truth, right? Problem was we scared away the church because they saw the poster with the demonic head, and the trailer makes it look like a horror. For those people listening, by the way, you got nothing to worry about. I mean, this is not even, the only reason it's an R is because that was political.
Yeah. I would show, as a pastor, I would show this to the junior high.
That's
I
exactly
really would. Yep.
that's exactly right.
It's not over the top. I mean, there's no head spinning and
Dr. Jeremiah
walking on walls and...
Dr. Jeremiah Johnston, who's down at Prestonwood Baptist down in Dallas, was one of the earliest people who saw us. He's an Oxford-trained theologian. He loved the film, and he said, we're showing this to our youth group, and I would recommend it to any youth group. And he's
Not
now,
just youth group, everybody, but at least the minimum youth group. Yeah.
But he would take it down to that level.
And the funny thing is now the church is finding out about it. We're the #1 Bible study in America, and at the same time, the sales on the movie, you can get it on Amazon, Apple, whatever, anywhere. And the bottom line is that those sales are lifting because the churches are saying,
Church,
I got to see this.
Church licensing is taken off.
Yeah, and they didn't judge the book by its cover. So to speak.
No, and just as an Easter egg for, the poster, for those who haven't seen it, it's a kind of a scary looking demon head, of our lead, and he's got 3 faces. That poster was actually designed by Jason Pearson, who did the poster for The Passion of the Christ. He's a total sold-out believer. It was done with the best of intentions.
Yeah, right.
Even if it looks a little scary.
We kind of went astray, a little bit.
We guided them.
A for effort, F for thinking.
It's kind of like, Lord, you know what you wrote. We're your dummies. So, whatever you want us to do. We thought we were supposed to go do that. So that's what we did.
But again, in that, have you heard about responses in that demographic, in the sense of the target demographic?
Yeah. I mean, what amazes me is that a 15-year-old nowadays can't stay off their phone for 10 seconds. They can't not be texting. They can't not be on TikTok. They can't. They're the most active generation in history. There's no downtime, right? Even when they're sleeping, they want to work and check their messages, right? And yet they've come into this movie, sit there for 2 hours, come out of the movie, and we thought we were going to have problems. They're not bored. They're ranting and raving about it, saying, I got to show this person, that person, this is a great movie, and so on. People have seen this movie 5, 6, 7 times. I know a person who saw it 13 times, took the whole neighborhood.
I'll tell you this, that, it has such an interest in it. So I think it has something for everybody. Let's say you have somebody that's not a Christian or doesn't understand theology at all. Just the riveting back and forth, it's enough. I mean, like it or not, the world is attracted to the occult. So the idea of a demonic presence of some kind, that's interesting to them. So they'll stick around and listen, at least to the conversation. But then if you bring the theological side for a Christian, again, I'm not interested in the occult, I'm interested in the scriptural truth. But yet I look at this and go, it was truly, I mentioned this about Bob, our partner here, that he falls asleep in every single movie. We went to Guardians of the Galaxy, 5 minutes. He was out. This one, riveted.
Yep.
He did not, he goes, Mom, I've never been anything like it. As soon as it started, that conversation began, it truly.
Most difficult thing to do in a movie, 2 guys in a room.
In one room, across the table.
Room.
That's it.
Everybody's tried it. Nobody's
There's
tried
no car scenes,
but
right?
And it's not because of us. It's because of the Spirit.
Yeah,
the Spirit's
yeah.
sitting there dancing. It's performing in front of you. It's telling you the truth. It's saying.
I think we were allowed a glimpse at diabolical brilliance.
Agreed.
And that's what resonates. There's a Father Carlos Martins, who has the Exorcist podcast. It's always in the top 5 faith podcasts. His only job is he's an exorcist. He lives in a seminary, but his only job is an exorcist. He goes to 250 cities a year. He came to our premiere. He said, "This is the most realistic portrayal of what I face on a daily basis that I've ever seen." And Father Chad Ripperger, who is another, again, full-time exorcist. He's like, we actually had listened to some of his stuff, and there's some little stuff of his in the film. He's like, this is exactly the way it works. So if you want to see, if you're a Bible-believing person, and you want to get a little bit of a glimpse of what the operating system of the demonic is, and you're just talking about it, by the way. It's not spinning heads and nobody's puking up.
Exactly.
It's about the demon explaining what the adversary's agenda is and what they intend for humanity. This is it.
I think what people forget is in 1 Timothy 4:1, it talks about in the last days, people will give themselves over to doctrines of demons. And demons are teachers. I mean, these are doctrines. These are theological truths that are meant to deceive, right? So they understand. Even in the film, you guys mentioned that he says, I know more theology than
any human being who's ever existed. Yeah.
Right, because they live it in the reality. But there is a total system of demonic teaching or instruction or deception. And so what I saw here was how they seek to deceive mankind through what we're seeing now with all the... Talk about how you guys included, which I thought was brilliant, all the woke stuff. I mean...
Well, that was a little bit of private fun for us. We'd actually prayed deeply. We'd asked the Lord, how much political stuff do we put in here, the state of the world politically, not just theologically.
Right, exactly.
And what we got back, what Cary particularly got back in prayer, was a little bit. And so what happens is we have about...
So we had to make it as good as we could.
We have about a minute and a half where we let it rip. And I know Steve Daisel, and quite...
A lot of people, that's their favorite sequence.
Yes.
The woke thing, all we did is we looked at what's going on. I mean, it's sad. We pointed a finger right at what's happening in the... Yep. I mean, there's nothing we said in this. And I will tell you what you said before about how do non-believers take this movie. We're finding that it's sending them to church, and it's sending them there. One guy comes up and he says, my friend's a Christian, I'm gonna go talk to him about this, and so the non-believers,
this is a film.
They don't see it as gospel, by the way. This is this is one of the things that really profoundly affected us. Until the bad guys, the studios and the critics, said and started to go with the agenda of say it's a Christian film, no one who went to see it in the first month or 6 weeks said it was a Christian film. I had people coming up to me saying, that wasn't Christian, that was amazing. And I'm thinking to myself, in my head, I'm thinking, that was the most Christian thing we've ever done. But because we didn't hit it on the nose.
Because it's a psychological thriller. It doesn't play as horror, it plays as a psychological thriller. I would say to your audience too, this is the movie where if you're gonna watch this, you're gonna rent this, you're gonna look at a DVD, you want to have next to you your family member or your friend who's walked away from the faith.
Yes.
You want them on the couch next to you.
They'll be absolutely entertained.
Yep.
The gospel, as you mentioned, is woven through everything in there. Right. We know that Satan speaks a lot of theology, but he seeks to twist it, and all of it's in there. And again, the way that you guys did it with the carpenter and the enemy, like screwdriver.
Never uses the name of Jesus. Never uses the name of God.
It was just. I mean, and it's just so attractive. It draws you in to be like, the carpenter. I imagine that an unbeliever is going to go, what does that mean? But it's going to draw him in to ask, well, why? Who's the carpenter?
It's chum on the water. It's how you bring the sharks. You drop blood on the water, right? And one of the best lines I thought that was amazing is you actually see the demon say, the cross was our greatest mistake.
Yes.
And you understand exactly now, wait a second. They're in battle. Another line that we get people bring up all the time is he says that people love is that I didn't realize this was a fight. And that's
The-
and then
the-
Sean
the
says
serial killer
that's
says,
because
yeah.
you're losing.
Yeah, it's because you're
That's
losing.
why you're losing.
That's why you're losing.
Yep, yep.
So we don't realize it's a fight. That's what really we started this conversation on. People believe, but do they really?
Because
Not
the whole
really.
in the film, the whole goal of the demon is he wants to be executed, but on his way down, he wants to destroy the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
He wants to take that soul with him before he leaves. And
Well,
that's what
in the
whole grapple
TV
is
show
about.
that we're planning to do with this, because we're going to do, instead of a sequel to a movie, we're going to do a multi-season TV show. The agenda of what the demon and the devil is really after will come out over the series. But what we're going to do in the TV show, I shouldn't say this, but is that as James is pursued...
So you're going to follow the same character?
Oh, with some characters. And we're talking to Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus. He wants to be in the show as well, whether we can set up the timing and stuff. But he said, I want to be in it. So we'd have him, Sean Patrick Flannery, Caviezel, Sean Patrick Flannery, and Jordan Belfi. But as we pursue the psychiatrist in the series, we're actually slowly pulling the audience to conversion. They don't realize it.
yeah.
Because he will eventually come to realize that it's all real. Because we get asked all the time, well, why don't you have him convert at the end of the movie? Because it would have made it a Christian movie, and that's not what we were looking to do. A Christian should know when somebody has seen a demon, he's going to become a believer. And he even says, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it, but,
Of
right?
course, he's got no framework.
But in the series, he will, of course, become a believer because it's the only defense against the darkness.
There's no place else to hide.
Yeah. I mean, can't give away all of it, but in the sense of even the way that you can't, you're not gonna kill a demon. So the demon is.
He's not going to disappear.
No,
demons don't die.
He moves on.
Right.
And but he's still watching, and he's still following.
They
from
can
that
be
distance.
cast into the abyss,
Which
by
we
the
know
Lord.
they will. Yeah,
Right.
eventually.
And sometimes I'm sure that he puts some of them away because they maybe break a rule or whatever it is. But it's going to be a very, very interesting show because people are going to come to watch the show because it's going to be interesting and cool and fun like every other TV show.
What's the time frame on it?
Well, we're trying to raise funds now. So once that happens,
Tail end of next year should be.
yeah,
ready.
I would think.
Okay.
Tail end of
but-
next year from now.
I think it's going to be great because realistically what we're doing is the same way we snuck the gospel. We God smuggled.
Yeah,
and we're going to
absolutely.
God smuggle through the TV.
Faith
and
in
the TV
faith
affects
is
so
the-
many
It
people.
does, yeah.
There's going to be conversions in mass here.
That's the goal.
Faith is the caramel in the Snickers bar. If you eat the bar, you've eaten the caramel. You
Yeah.
don't really think about it as a separate thing, but you're going to wind up taking it in. That's how we want to
And
do it.
again, there's this incrustation that's C.S. Lewis talks about all the time in the Scripture Letters, but that hardens people to not hearing things. And so if you can come alongside and weave it in without coming, like you said, straight on the nose, then their guard is down,
Right.
and it works.
Eyes are the mirror of the soul. And when a person's in a movie theater, we did an unusual thing. We were shown this in the beginning of our career. If you're in a movie theater, imagine a movie theater, everybody's looking at the screen, right? Well, if you're a movie maker and you really want to see if you had an effect, what you do is you start the movie, then you walk down the aisle all the way to the
side.
screen, the side aisle, and you turn and look at the audience. Don't watch the movie, you've seen it. Watch the audience, and you'll see that people react in a movie theater unlike any other way because their guard is
Totally
totally down.
unselfconscious.
So they're very animated. The hands are on their face. They're
Right.
shaking. No, don't do that.
Yeah, back it up, yep.
And you never have these extreme movements like, and it's an amazing experience. The power of the media is so influential, and that's why we do what we do.
This is not a new thought. It's 2,500 years since Plato tried to ban drama from his idea of the perfect republic. He said it's too powerful.
It's too powerful.
It has people react and act in real life, based on emotion rather than logic and rational thought.
Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, Mao, all the not great, I don't use that word.
All the
but
big baddies.
all the really, really bad guys all said the same thing. If I can control the movie theaters,
Yep.
I can control the
Well,
world.
if you look at it again, not in the sense of, you could say the left if you want to, but what I see is just the exaggeration, the emotional inflammation, or the inflammatory comments that people make. It's not based on truth, but if you can get people to get a reaction, then they're not going to think through things, and you can control them that way. I mean, I think
look at Lenin, Hitler,
Yep.
Mao, right? Like I just said, Now compare it to what the media is doing to America right now.
Yep.
It's propaganda.
It's propaganda.
And propaganda works, otherwise they wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
And the problem is, if you control the propaganda machine, which is Hollywood, then you bring out your philosophy. And unfortunately, the devil controls Hollywood, which is why we left Hollywood. But that's a whole nother story.
Well, kind of as a last part here, if you don't mind, which I think people would want to hear this, is again, we acknowledge, again, all of us, the spiritual battle is real. We walk out, I get in my car, but I'm walking out, not only there, but it's here. The spiritual battle is real. So here you guys are getting ready to film, or you are filming, and I imagine it was just super easy, no spiritual resistance.
Oh yeah, it was
Absolutely.
just a breeze.
Walk in the park.
Just a breeze. I mean, we never had more fun. Between that and Hawaii, I mean, I'm going to set. No.
Which is not the case,
Not
right?
the
So
case,
kind of
no.
give us a couple examples of how the true enemy did not want you guys filming this and sought to interrupt.
From
what
the
was going on.
beginning, from literally every single thing we
Every
did.
step of the way. Well, the right was terribly difficult. Then we
Creating the project was insane.
We came-
insanely difficult.
He knew what you guys were. He knew where you were heading.
yeah.
And so the enemy sought to interrupt it.
Yeah, I mean, it took a year for us to do the script, which normally takes us 10 weeks, 12 weeks.
So we came to Oklahoma to start shooting. We were 10 days from shooting, and of our 15 department heads, 9 went down with COVID. Cary spent 8 days in the hospital because apparently 7 days of hospital food
But I
wasn't
will
enough.
tell you, I never felt that I was going to die. It never even came to my mind. I felt the spirit on me the whole time.
yeah, sense of
This
peace.
was done for some reason. I think it was we were rested. But that's a whole nother.
Okay.
So our health was kind of shattered for a while. We had already built our set, our hero set. And so it was in the Oklahoma, the former arena of the Oklahoma Thunder. So it's, 50,000 feet or whatever, 20,000 seat arena. Well, we have to keep that set standing for 5 months while we're not using it.
And they were less than understanding.
Of course.
So
So
they had us and they knew it. So that's the beginning. Every cell phone, every email, every text, always confusion or not working or not sending or not answering.
Multiple
or
car
multiple-
accidents.
We had-
Electronics always get interfered by the
electronics
enemy.
always
Yeah.
fail. We had 12 car crashes all totaled where the person should be dead, not a scratch on any
we
single
had
person.
two prayer teams, a husband and wife, minister and his wife, who were on set, and they pray all day, by the way. So it starts with a 15 minutes before first call, we have a voluntary prayer session. And so they conduct that. We have an exorcist-trained priest for the Catholics. He, on about day 6 or 7, after saying Mass, 4 hours later, he's undergoing an emergency appendectomy. His appendix bursts during removal, and the surgeon tells him, if you came here an hour later, you'd be dead.
Wow.
We have the roof of our post facility,
Yes.
Kappa Studios in Burbank.
in California.
The whole roof. And I'm talking, this is not a small building. In a rainstorm. Now, rainstorms, it's rain.
Yeah.
Okay? The roof gets ripped off and the building gets filled like Noah's Ark upside down.
But
okay?
it happens.
And that's all electrical equipment
happens-
with all the footage.
It happens as best anybody can figure out.
3 o'clock in the
At 2 or
morning.
3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning over the weekend, so no one figures it out for
No,
10 hours.
So by Monday, we're in big trouble. So we had to evacuate out of there and try to find another place. We had
Our booking agent, let's go to the night of our theatrical premiere. We had two distinct demonic manifestations. I'll go with the lesser one. We had planned on having a formal rite of exorcism of place done before the showing. In the half hour before the exorcist arrived, we had 2 women in separate incidents either fall or get thrown to the lobby
thrown
floor.
face down.
Right. They were.
Boom.
Like,
Yes,
Yeah.
but this is a totally flat floor. This is an enormous floor at Cinemark's World headquarters. There's no reason to fall. There's no lip.
There's no big
carpet.
holes in the ground and
There's-
stuff
there's
like
no-
that.
But the one that was really crazy, so we have an interview suite back at the hotel. We're interviewing the stars, we're interviewing the producers and so forth. And all the equipment starts malfunctioning, the sound mixing machine starts dying, the electric is flickering, the lights won't
The
work.
lights are going on and off, but like, by the way, not like a short, but like almost like it's in cadence or sequence,
Oh, wow.
but they're all at a different cadence. It's weird.
But it starts getting a little out of hand when there's a voice coming from the couch. So,
no, voices coming from the couch. Let me repeat that.
I think it was voice singular, but yes, so it was a voice coming from the couch. I've never seen a talking couch. So we called Father Carlos Martins back, and he had just been interviewed an hour before. He's like, yeah, I know what this is. So he shows up, he's in the door, it looks like a scene out of The Exorcist. The door opens because the interview room is dark, subdued lighting. He's in the light in the doorway framed. He's got the black, he's got the purple stole, he's got the Latin book, he's got a Benedictine crucifix with it. That's the Catholic Cavalry Artillery.
Yeah, that's how they do. That's how they roll. Yeah.
So he comes in, we're on the 5th floor in this hotel room. He goes and stands with his back to the French doors to the balcony. It's a very small balcony, no bigger than this table. He begins to write in Latin, and he's going through, and he goes through the whole thing. 10 minutes later, he's done, and he says to me, yes, there was some disturbance. He said, while I was doing it, behind my right ear, I could hear a female demonic voice chanting.
Trying to interfere with him.
He says, I couldn't identify the language. That wasn't clear. I couldn't discern it. He said, it continued until I got to the part of the right where I declare, bow now before the holy and terrible name of Jesus.
Yeah.
Terror in the archaic sense of Jesus'
I
terror
am
of
God.
demons, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, she knocked it off and disappeared after.
Yeah.
All the voices, the couch stopped talking, the voices in the ear, the lights, everything goes back to normal. But I will tell you, it's palpable, the power when the Lord, his authority is not debatable. In other words, they flee immediately.
They tremble. They know.
They tremble, and they know, and it's ironic. Think about this: we have a world where people do not believe, and demons believe, and they all know.
They all know,
and that's the great deceit. That's why we made the movie, to show people: look, God loves us. The devil is the bad guy. So when something bad happens, God doesn't do that. It's the devil. There is good and there is evil. I mean, it's a very powerful when you come to that realization.
The thing over and over that comes up in deliverance ministry, regardless of denomination, the demons are incredibly legalistic.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely aware of authority, who has it and who doesn't. Yeah. And if the power and authority of Jesus Christ is brought to bear,
it's the hammer of God.
They're in a lot of trouble.
It's like in the book of Acts, the sons of Sceva, right? You know, they go around, well, we adjure you in the name of the Jesus that Paul preaches, and he gets whipped. The guy gets beat up and stripped naked. But for those, because he knows those that truly live in the authority, that are followers of Jesus, and those who just are professors of
it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
It's an amazing thing when you see power, or you see something like that was supernatural, and then you see the result. It strengthens your faith, because you suddenly realize, oh, God is the creator of everything. He created the angels. So, like, we saw a picture of Jesus and the devil doing an arm wrestle. Well, that's blasphemy, really, because the bottom line is the devil is not on Jesus. They're not fighting. God is God. Mm-hmm. The devil is an angel. The angel could be fighting another angel, a good angel, right? That's totally different. Devil can't just, he can't grab, he can't even touch the Lord.
No, they're not equal. And C.S. Lewis says that they're not equal opposites. He says that if you look at the opposite of Satan, probably Michael. You know, he describes that in the Scripture Blood as the same thing. But so in that regard, I picture Jesus having all this, and then there's one little baby arm trying to arm wrestle Jesus. Give me a break. He's the creator.
Yeah, the 2-year-old.
The 2-year-old. So let's wrap it up here in this sense. What do you guys want people to get from this movie? I mean, I hope it continues to go far and wide, and of course, we offer here at the ministry. What do you guys want people to
deepen or renew a sense of commitment to Christ, and that will protect them. That will protect them in this world, and maybe equip them to go out and bring others to the faith.
Yeah, rescue others. Yeah,
it's the whole goal on everything we do. Ultimately, is we're not looking to be filmmakers. We're looking to try to conquer the culture for Christ, and we use film and media to try to go do that.
This is our ministry. Mm-hmm. So if you can profoundly affect one person, save one soul, then obviously that goes on your resume. You go up to the Lord. He says, "Okay, you did good. You're in."
Well done.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, when you make something like this, you also have a message you're trying to bring out. And the message, I think, really is, like I said before, is, look, God loves you in a profound and powerful way. But He's not going to force you to love Him back. You've got to turn to God, and you've got to plead with God. He wants to fulfill you. He wants to save you. And no matter, by the way, I mean, we've all heard this before, that if Judas had come to the Lord and said to me, "Forgive me," He would have forgiven Judas. So there's nothing anyone has done that goes to that level, right? But Judas didn't turn to Him. So that's what we want people to know. Look, there is a God. He loves you. He's merciful. But there is a devil. There's night. There's day. There's heads and there's tails. There's white and there's black. There are angels and there are demons. And the demons are very active. And I would say to anyone right now, when you come out of your house in the morning, is everything like it was 5 or 10 years ago? Can you feel it in the air? You can feel that there's something terribly wrong with what's going on in the world. I mean, Israel gets attacked. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Okay, that's never happened like that before. What do we know biblically? Bad will become good.
Yep.
Good will become bad. And it's a sorry time. I believe that this is all happening because the devil knows his time is short.
His time is short. Yeah.
Here he comes.
Yep.
We know who's coming.
Yep.
We know we win.
We know we win.
We do
But-
these movies to save as many souls before that, because it's just a matter of the toll. That, we know we win, but how many people are going to get lost? Let's lessen that amount if we can by preaching the gospel.
Chuck and Cary, appreciate your guys' time.
Not a problem.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, those listening, I encourage you to go to our bookstore, get Nefarious. You will not be disappointed. And I promise you'll watch it more than once because it's tremendous. So appreciate you watching this week, and catch us next time.